This tutorial is going to show you how to easily transfer any reference image into a drawing. If you're just learning how to draw, or if you have a bit of experience yourself, I hope you find this tutorial to be helpful. It's a great way to map out any image if you're working directly from that photo. If you have access to a printer, you can print out your image and use the window tracing method. By placing your tracing paper over top of your picture and then laying that over a window with a nice sunny day, you can see your outlines this way. But I'm going to show you how to use your Chromebook instead of going that extra step and printing out the photo. So first you're going to find your image and then save it to your device. So I'm going to save image as. Then I'm going to locate that image in my downloads file, rename it to something that I can find, and then I'll click save. It says download complete. We click show in folder. Then I'm going to double click that image and it should open it up. Since my picture is tall and narrow, I'm going to rotate it so I could use as much of my Chromebook screen as possible. If yours looks more horizontal, you should be fine. See how it makes it larger when I rotate? Then I'll click save and I'll be able to work with this. Now we want to use the zoom in button by clicking the magnifying glass that has the plus sign, so we can zoom in as close as we can and see the edges of our image. You can click and drag it around so that you can move it, but don't use the zooming in method with using your fingers on the trackpad. Always use the clicking version instead. It gives you more of a precise area of adjustment. So I'm going to click and pull my image all the way to the edge there. So I see the wing of my subject with my toucan. And the tail kind of goes off the edge, and obviously the beak of the toucan is going off the edge as well. But that's okay because I'm going to go back and retrace the tail and the beak as well. So fold back your screen as flat as you can. And then you're going to select the paper that you want to use to transfer your image. Find the thinnest paper that you can. So printer paper works, or tracing paper. You're going to need your pencil, and at this time you can turn off any lights around you so that you can see better through your screen there. And now overlay it so that we have more room for the rest of our image. You can see where the beak is going to be. So I know that it's going to fit later on. And I'm going to place so that the top of the head is close to the edge of the paper, and very gently, now I'm using very, very little pressure. I'm using my pencil to trace over the contour lines or the edges of my image. You can use a little bit of tape if you want to secure your paper so that it doesn't move around on you while you're tracing. But use very, very light pencil pressure to go over all of the edges of the major details that you see. Please be as light and as gentle as you can when you're tracing over your Chromebook screen. You do not want to hurt your screen if you press too hard. So once you're finished going over the major details that you can see with your image, now you may need to click and drag your image so that you can see the rest of what you need to trace. So for example, I want to trace the rest of my toucan's beak. So I have to pick up my paper and I'm lining it back up, mostly focusing on the eye of the toucan and seeing where those other lines fall into place so that it makes sense. And now I can go in and fill in the rest of that beak. I can add more of the leaves on the branch and continue there. and anything else that needs to be continued. You might need to do this a couple of times depending on how big your picture is and how much space that you still have left on your paper. So this branch kind of carries over, so I'm going to try to trace as much of that as I can and finish that picture. Now it does stop right there, so I may want to fill it in so that it goes all the way across the edge of the paper. Now I'm going to click and drag again, and now I can finish up the bottom of the tail and those details. So depending on your image, you might need to click and drag around a few times to fill in the rest of the space. And now my tracing is all finished. So I can turn on my lights and you can see the result of your tracing. Now this tracing is only temporary. This isn't my finished drawing paper, so I'm going to want to transfer this drawing onto my final drawing paper. This paper that I have is my final paper. It's a bit more of a collage because what we're working on is a mixed media project, but use any finished drawing paper that you want to use. So now I'm going to flip over my traced image and I'm going to shade with pencil, super dense, all the way across the back side of that traced drawing. So I'm applying the graphite all over the back where my image is. So you can kind of look through and see where your image actually is. You can flip it over and see the graphite showing through the other side, but you want to shade where that drawing is falling across that paper. So this is the material that is going to actually transfer onto our final drawing paper, and it'll make a little bit more sense as you see me working along with this. So try to fill in graphite all the way wherever your drawing is, filling in any spaces so you don't leave anything out. And then I will show you the next step. It helps to have a pencil that has plenty of graphite. You may need to sharpen a few times. I find that regular pencils work a bit better than, say, mechanical pencils, because those can break very easily with this step. Try your best to keep your fingers out of the graphite. As you're applying more of this all over your paper, you don't want to get messy fingers. Now that the back is covered in graphite, I'm going to transfer it onto my final drawing paper. So I'm going to set that into place, and I'll use a little bit of tape to secure it into place, and then I'll use a ballpoint pen to carefully go over all of my pencil lines for my original tracing. And what's happening is the pressure from your pen is going to transfer that graphite from the back of that tracing paper onto your final drawing paper at the very bottom. So make sure that your paper is nice and secure with some tape so it doesn't move around on you. And then gradually go over all of those pencil lines. You may need to turn your paper so that it's a bit more comfortable for you. And all of the details that you trace should be able to show up on your final drawing paper. So take your time to go over all of that pencil that you started with. Once you are totally done tracing, you can lift up your transfer paper, and then when you remove it, you should be able to see your entire drawing transferred to that final drawing paper. Now, it may be lighter in some spots than others, depending on how heavy the graphite was on the back of that tracing paper, but keep in mind that this method allows you to lay out those basic outlines using a reference image so that now you can do whatever you want with this drawing. This is your drawing that you can continue to work with. So you can add shading, you can add color, whatever your plan for your project is up to you at this point. So I hope that you found this tutorial to be helpful, and now you can use reference images to start to generally map out your drawings. And as always, this was a Hammer Time production. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.